The notification rang sharp, like a spoon hitting tile. The hallway lamp cast a cold blue sheen, and the air smelled of vending machine coffee and cleanser that drowns out any news except the kind that lands right in your chest. I sat on a plastic chair by the ICU door, holding my finger in the salter, old reflex, and not checking the time. The phone lit up on its own. I only looked because I thought it was the doctor. But it was something else, a message from my daughter's neighbor, Kelly. A link. And a short line, "Did you see this?" I tapped. An Instagram page opened. A video, a dark bar, a birthday cake throwing sparks, a tight crowd. Someone shouts, "Happy birthday, Cole." The camera wobbles, and for a second the lens catches the one I knew even in bad light, my daughter's husband. The shirt I gave him last Thanksgiving, the top button undone, glassy eyes. He's laughing the way people laugh when they don't know what time it is. When they don't hear the monitor down the hall that beeped exactly a minute ago. I froze the frame where his arm is around a girl with glitter on her shoulders and his phone in the other hand. Up in the corner a little tag blinked, "Right now." That same evening. While my Emily was being wheeled through the ward and they were trying to do what could be done. I let the salter drop, shut my eyes for a few seconds, and drew a breath. The chlorine smell was unusually harsh. A nurse came out from the room, short, tired eyes, and said the doctor would stop by in 10 minutes. I nodded. I looked back at the phone and scrolled the comments. Emojis, cheers, something like, "You're a king, Cole." One line stuck like a pit, "It's your day, bro, life is short." I understood whom I had underestimated, but I still kept quiet. Briefly, I'm a father. I'm 72. I came down from the north in a rush when Kelly called to say Emily had collapsed in her kitchen. Emily is my eldest, a teacher from St. Paul, with her mother's voice and my 20-year-old laugh. She has a 7-year-old daughter, Beth, faster than thought, and a dog, a pit bull with a foolish name, Texas. Their house sits on a street where people dig cars out from snow half the winter. And there's Cole, her husband. I never trusted his smile, there was always a tiny pause between the teeth, like a comma stuck in the wrong sentence. He works at a car dealership, likes to underline good news with loud parties and bad news with long silences. A son-in-law who put money on the table but didn't put his back into it. Next morning, before dawn, I decided I wouldn't text Cole. Let the doctor say what he needed to say, then I'd call. Why did I hold my tongue? Give me a minute, I'll explain. I'm no coward, I know how a word can ignite powder that's lain for years. While I sat and waited, another post arrived. This time, a story. Who the birthday boy is celebrating with, fingers with a manicure and 2 glasses of bourbon on the table, lacquer shining, Cole's hand visible, the watch I gave him on their first anniversary. Time stamp, 11:08 p.m. At that hour Emily was on a ventilator and the doctor was trying to stabilize her pressure. I held her fingers, cold as the metal rail. I listened to the machine breathing for her, the sound scraped in my ears. I heard the sentence after which "There's no road back, you need to prepare for different outcomes," the doctor said. That meant, the worst, without naming it. I keep a simple rule, when someone flips a coin in front of me, I don't play at guessing. I look where it lands. Then I move that way. While Beth slept on Kelly's couch, I took the first step. I called Cole's colleague at the dealership, Stanley, a guy I once traded a few words with about baseball. Stan didn't pick up right away, he whispered when he did. "Do you know already?" was the first thing he said. I didn't break, I just asked, "Know what exactly?" "He's been there 3 hours," Stan breathed. "I thought he went to the hospital." "He said he would." "But," Stan trailed off. "Is he with someone?" I asked, keeping my voice even, cold. "With Lindsay from accounting. Holding hands. If you tell Emily, it's my neck." I said, "Be quiet. No one hears it from you. Now listen to me. Here I made a mistake you don't get forgiven for." I asked Stan to photograph the check and their table, so I'd have proof. I was thinking about tomorrow, about court, about Beth's custody, about everything that might spill out of this night. I sent him my email and number. 5 minutes later, a photo came in, a pile of ice, 2 scotches, a cake with sparklers, a bill for almost 200. And the date. And the time. And a note, "Happy birthday, Cole." Same bar on Union Street. Second photo, Cole hugging Lindsay by the dartboard. He wasn't looking at the camera, he was looking at her the way people look when they think no one's looking. I felt something inside go flat, not empty, flat, like a frozen lake. Everything I needed was in my hands now. That same evening I called Cole's father, a retired sheriff, Harvey, a man I'd once fed pigeons with outside the courthouse. He always said things straight. "Harvey," I said, "your son isn't where he should be." "I know," he answered after a pause. "I saw. He sent me a video. Said he was catching a breather. I told him you don't do that." He hung up. "George," his voice rasped, "if you need my help, I'm here." "Not yet," I said, "but you heard it from me. Not from others." I understood, this is my war, but I'll need allies. Next morning I sat by Emily when the doctor came to talk. He spoke about chances, about numbers, about good news, we stabilized, and bad news, risk of recurrence. I listened, nodded, memorized. Then I asked, "When can we talk about visitors? I've got a son-in-law." The doctor looked at me a long time, like at a man who'd walked in from another winter. "Visitors, by arrangement. But she needs rest." I nodded. "I'm not promising him rest," I said softly. The nurse pretended not to hear. After the talk I called Cole. He picked up on the third ring, voice gravelly. I pictured him in that car he bragged about, leather interior smelling of chemicals. "Where are you?" I asked, plain. "I'm, at a friend's. Last night ran long." "How's Em?" He said her name like he was afraid it'd crumble and cut his tongue. "She's in intensive care," I said. "Her heart's on a thin thread." "You didn't come." "I have photos, Cole. I have the time on the candle. I have the receipt." He went silent. "George, later. You're coming now," I tapped the rail with my finger to keep from blowing. "No outfits, no parade. You sit by her and you sit. We talk after." "Okay," he said quietly. And I heard him exhale the wrong way. I hung up and stared at the door for a long time. Why did I keep quiet last night? Because sometimes you don't strike while the one you love is hanging on by a thread. Because when you strike, you hit two at once. I chose a time. Choice has a price. Here's the price. Now you'll hear why I paid it myself. An hour later he arrived. No flowers, nothing in his hands, just his phone, which he twirled like a nervous teen twirls keys. "How is she?" he asked, not meeting my eyes. "Sit," I said, pulling a chair. He sat, knocked his knee, went quiet. "Em," he said softly, "it's me." I listened as he talked about the mornings when she made the coffee, the first time they laughed at the old movie theater, about Beth and her laughter at the pool. He spoke like a man trying to assemble a mosaic with shaking hands. I almost believed he was here the right way. Until I saw his phone blinking on silent. The name, Lindsay, flashed for a second. He glanced, quick, guilty, almost invisible. I understood he hadn't come whole. Something clicked in me. I stepped into the hall and called Kelly. "How's Beth?" I asked. "Sleeping. We're quiet," she said. "Good. Keep her one more day. Tell her mom's resting at the hospital." She asked about her dad, Kelly added. "Tell her dad's close." And that's true, he's close, just not where he should be. I hung up, went to the vending machine, and bought the worst coffee in the city. We always joked that way, Emily and I. The cup was hot, my fingers almost burned. I thought about a plan. How to burn off the extra and leave only the truth you can't run from. Not on emotions, but on paper, dates, voices. I already had the first threads, photos, receipts, a witness. All that was left was to tie them. Down the corridor, a little ways off, I heard Cole whisper to someone, "I can't. He's here." I was standing close enough to touch his shadow on the wall. By the end of the second day I stepped outside. A fine rain fell, the kind that soaks even a hat. I called Harvey again. "Hold on to those documents I asked for," I said. "I need copies of his insurance, his shift schedule, who signed out the test drives. Anything that shows where he was when he said he was here. I won't ask twice." Harvey breathed out, "I'm already collecting. He made me mad today. Don't know how you didn't do it last night." "I didn't want to shoot in the dark," I said. "And now?" he asked. "Now I've got a sight." I hung up, brushed rain from my sleeves, and headed back in. That same morning I left the hospital for an hour, not because I wanted to, but because a plan with no legs doesn't move. After the rain the air smelled of wet asphalt and the gasoline of early pickup trucks. I walked evenly, unhurried, so I wouldn't dwell on the thought that any minute might be the last quiet one. Kelly sent a photo of Beth eating pancakes, she laughed. Says she misses school. I replied, hug, but another thought kept circling, where was Cole last night after his, I'll be there soon. There was only one honest answer to that, the receipt, the video, the eyes of strangers that see everything. If you want truth to work, it has to be theirs, not yours. 20 minutes later I stood in front of the bar on Union Street. Inside it still smelled like yesterday's smoke that shouldn't legally be there and cheap lime. The bartender was polishing glasses at his own pace, like people who keep their tempo and won't lend it out. You worked last night? I asked. Depends who's asking. George. Emily's father. I didn't show photos, didn't threaten, just dropped the name that should tug a conscience. He yawned, rolled his shoulders. Maybe. Lose something. I need a copy of a bill. Table by the dartboard. Time, after 11. And if you've got it, the card slip. I laid 2 20s on the counter, not as a bribe but as payment for extra attention. The bartender glanced at the bills, then at me. Name? Cole. He didn't flinch, so it was familiar. I'll check the system. I waited, studying the walls where other people's nights hang shyly. The bartender came back with a printout, covered it with a napkin. Here. But we don't have cameras. Owner's policy. I saw what I wanted, the signature, the amount, the time. And an Achilles heel, 2 bourbons comped. Someone treated them. That someone wasn't me and wasn't Harvey. The chain was shortening. Thanks, I said, and I was about to go when Stan cleared his throat by the door. He shouldn't have been there, but there he was. If you think Cole won't find out you were here, he said quietly, you're wrong. I stepped closer. Then help me so he finds out, later. Stan nodded and backed off, and I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. A text from an unknown number, stop. She won't survive this. I realized I'd already been seen. I realized whom I'd underestimated, and this time I didn't stay quiet, not even in my head. Next day, toward noon, I asked the nurse to give me an hour for paperwork. She knew what that meant and nodded with the kind of solidarity you won't see in protocols. In the hallway I intercepted Cole. He smelled of mint and cheap aftershave, like someone trying to wash the night off in the morning. I need your explanation on record, I said, that's what's fair. For Emily. For Beth. For a judge, if it comes to that. He went pale. I didn't do anything that. George, I just celebrated while your wife was fighting for her life. I spoke calmly, never raising my voice, that scares more. He looked away. Lindsay. We're just co-workers. Then give me your phone and show me yesterday's messages. I'm no cop, but I have a right to know who sent you right now. I watched 2 voices wrestle inside him, one about self-preservation, the other about being human. The first one won. No, he said, fingers tightening. Then I heard the sentence after which there's no way back, if you take this all the way, you'll lose Beth. He wasn't threatening, just repeating what he'd been told. I recognized the lawyerly cadence. Day 3 was ending when I met Harvey in the parking lot. He handed me a yellowed envelope, like the kind you keep tied with rubber bands in a drawer. Shift schedule, he said. And the test drive request copy for last night. Manager's signature. You'll like this, he took the car out at 10:37 p.m. Returned it at 12:12 a.m. Client address, 2 blocks from that bar. He fell silent, waiting for my reaction. Thank you, I tucked the papers into my jacket. I told my son not to play clever. He didn't listen. Boys rarely listen until winter leans against the door, I said. Microhook, I had one more step I couldn't say out loud. That evening, same day, I made my real mistake, and I'll admit it here, though I'm ashamed. I went to see Lindsay. I found her address without tricks, just in her open profiles. A 2-room apartment over a laundromat, the stairs smelled of detergent and old wood. She opened in a robe, wrists trembling, nails too neatly painted for a workday. You're Emily's dad, she said, not as a question. Yes. And I didn't come to fight. I didn't come to hurt you. But I need you to tell the truth. On a recorder. She leaned against the jamb, measured me, old, tired, and said, what will my truth change? It'll keep my granddaughter where she belongs. And it'll help your conscience sleep. She sighed. Come in. It was a small kitchen with tile that had seen better times. She poured herself water, me too. I put the recorder on the table, in plain sight. Last night. The bar. 11 p.m. You were there with Cole. She nodded. Yes. You were holding hands. Yes. Why? She was silent for a long moment. Because he said he couldn't be at the hospital. That it was breaking him. That he needed a break. Her voice didn't justify, just replayed. You knew Emily was in ICU? I knew. Are you two together? No. Not officially. He promised to talk to her after. She didn't finish. I could see she wanted to be good in her version. What else? I asked. He talked about money, she said. About the insurance. That if it got worse, he'd have to carry everything alone. That he needed strength. It sounded vile. I knew it. But she didn't cry, and that's fair. Someone else has the right to cry. I turned the recorder off and stood. Thank you. That mattered. And then I made the mistake that would break my rhythm for the next days. I left my business card on the table. I wanted her to know the door wasn't closed, that truth wasn't a trap. She looked at the card, at my name, my number. I left. An hour later a message from Cole popped up on my phone, you crossed a line. I realized Lindsay had texted him. Worse, I realized this, he would start cleaning up. I heard the sentence in my head, I gave the enemy a map. Those mistakes don't get forgiven. Next morning, when I returned to Emily, she moved her fingers for the first time in days with more than a reflex. The nurse smiled with her eyes. That's good. I held Emily's hand. I said, I'm right here. And I understood the dilemma was snowballing, tell her about Cole. Now, no. It would kill her faster than the illness. Keep silent longer, a different kind of betrayal. I stood like a man between two doors, and both led down. I promised myself, I'll tell her when it's safe. Lie to yourself and you sleep better for one night. Then you have to wake up. That same afternoon I met Cole in the visitor's lot. He tried to look sure of himself, but the sleeves of his coat gave away his nerves. You talked to Lindsay, he said. Yes. Because there had to be one person who called things by their names. He snorted. You old people don't get it, the world is different. The world is the same wherever a person chooses, I said. You chose to celebrate. Now choose responsibility. I won't let you take my daughter from me, his voice cracked into boyishness. It's not for me to give or take. Facts will decide. And your conscience. The court will decide, he said, and for the first time I saw fear in him, clean as ice. That meant I was pressing the right place. That meant I wasn't the only one not sleeping tonight. I had one day to turn everything over. I went to the dealership, got from Stan a copy of internal emails with timestamps, and one more small thing that might not help in court but would help me, a photo of the wall calendar labeled, Lindsay, accounting, with a pink circle around yesterday's date. I watched small details turn into a big picture. All that was left was to find who treated the bourbon. Stan gave me a name, Rick, a bartender friend of Cole's. Another not. By the end of day 5 I returned to the hospital with a folder of documents, the recorder, and that even cold inside that keeps a person on his feet. I already knew how to do this right. First I'd speak to Harvey formally, hand things over on record, then to Cole with witnesses. No shouting, but loud enough for all to hear. I was halfway down the corridor when I heard footsteps behind me and saw a nurse rushing up. Mr. George, she said quickly, visitors went into the room. You weren't expecting them. She said a name. Not Cole's. And not Harvey's. The knock came earlier than I expected, still dark outside, just that pale gray-blue hour when even the hospital lights seem unsure whether to stay on. I'd fallen asleep in a chair in the corridor, my folder on my knees, cold coffee by my shoe. 2 quick knocks, not the hesitant kind of a nurse, nor the firm rap of a doctor with bad news. I knew before I lifted my head. Mr. Whitmore. The woman standing there wore a windbreaker, badge clipped to her chest. Her voice was calm, measured, as if she'd had to say my name to a dozen people before. Behind her, a man followed, older, slow in his movements, the kind of posture that comes from carrying other people's mistakes for too long. We need to speak about your son-in-law, she said quietly. My throat dried. Cole. Yes, sir. There's been an accident. Those words, there's been an accident, they never get softer no matter how gently someone says them. Where? River Road. Just before midnight. He's alive, but in custody. There was another person in the car, a woman. She didn't survive. The older man looked away when he said that, and I didn't need a name. Lindsay. My hand found the armrest. Was he drinking? The woman exhaled slowly, avoiding my eyes. The preliminary test says yes. Twice the limit. I nodded once. The folder on my lap slipped, papers spreading like wings that couldn't lift. For a long time none of us spoke. Finally the officer said, "We're sorry you had to hear it this way. But we thought you should know before the press does." The press. Of course. Small-town tragedy travels faster than fire. "Thank you," I said. The words came out flat, automatic. When they left, I sat there until the coffee smell went sour. The hallway clock ticked louder than it should have. Somewhere down the corridor Emily's monitor beeped in its steady rhythm, stronger now, almost confident. And I thought, how do you tell a woman who just fought death that the man she trusted has delivered it to someone else? Around sunrise, they let me see him. Different floor, same antiseptic air. Cole lay in a narrow bed, half his face bruised purple, one arm strapped in plaster. A guard waited by the door, arms crossed. Cole turned his head when I stepped in, winced. "You came to gloat," he rasped. "No," I said. "To make sure you're still breathing. That's more than I can say for her." He blinked slowly. "You don't waste time. I'm too old for that." I pulled a chair closer. "What happened?" "She grabbed the wheel," he said. "We argued. She said she was going to tell Emily everything. I tried to stop her." "You were doing 80, I said. Airbag deployed on your side first." "She hit glass." He turned his face to the wall. "You know, I thought you wanted me to suffer. Well, here you go." I shook my head. "I didn't want you to suffer, Cole. I wanted you to be decent. There's a difference." He laughed dryly, then coughed. "You got what you wanted. The world see me for what I am. You win." "No one wins in this story," I said. "You just stop losing for a while." I stood. "They'll want a statement. Keep it clean. Don't lie this time. For your daughter's sake." He didn't look up, just whispered, "Tell Emily I tried." I stopped at the door. "No," I said. "You tell her yourself, if she lets you." By the time I reached ICU, the first light was coming through the blinds. The nurse met me with a soft smile I didn't trust. "She's awake," she said. Inside, Emily looked smaller than I remembered, pale but real. The tubes had been reduced, her breathing was her own. When she saw me, her lips moved. "Dad." "I'm here," I said. She squeezed my hand weakly. "Beth?" "She's fine. With Kelly. She made a drawing for you, a cat with 4 legs on one side." Emily's lips lifted a little. Then her gaze drifted past me, unfocused. "Where's Cole?" That moment lasted a lifetime. I sat, felt the chair creak. "He's resting," I said carefully. "There was an accident." Her eyes sharpened instantly. "An accident?" I hesitated. "He's alive." She read everything else in my face. "And her?" I didn't answer. That was answer enough. Emily closed her eyes for a long time. Her chest rose once, trembled. I thought she might cry, but when she opened them again, they were dry. "Then that's who he was," she said. We sat in silence for a while. The machines hummed softly, a steady rhythm like a heartbeat that belonged to both of us. Finally she whispered, "Dad, promise me something. Anything. Don't hate him. Not for me. That one cut clean." I looked at her, the same steady eyes she'd had as a child when she tried to teach her little brother how to ride a bike. She always wanted things fixed, not broken further. "I'll try," I said. "But I won't forget." "That's enough," she whispered. 3 days later, the police called again. Cole had been discharged, then booked. Vehicular manslaughter, DUI, reckless endangerment, words that sound cold until you remember the faces behind them. Harvey, his father, came to see me the next day. We met outside the courthouse, wind slicing through our coats. "He'll serve time," Harvey said. "Lawyers are talking 5 to 8. I nodded. Justice is math for men who can't count guilt. He exhaled smoke, looked older than I'd ever seen him. I told him to stay home that night. I begged him. He said he needed air. "We all do," I said. "It's what we breathe in that ruins us." He looked at me for a long time. You going to tell Beth? Not yet. Not all of it. She'll have enough ghosts later. Harvey nodded. You'll be her guardian, right? Emily signed the papers before the stroke, I said. You knew. She told me, he said softly. Said if anything ever happened, you'd know what's right. I folded my arms against the wind. Then I'd better live up to it. He handed me an envelope, the trust documents, notarized. He won't contest it, he said. He knows he's lost that much. We stood there a while longer, two fathers in the cold, staring at a courthouse that had seen every flavor of regret. When he finally walked away, I felt something like pity for him, not for his son, but for the endless echo of the name Cole that would now mean something smaller than a man. By the end of the month, Emily was home. The doctors called it a miracle of compliance. She called it stubbornness. Beth ran across the yard before the car even stopped, her shoes slapping against the pavement, hair flying. Mom, she shouted, and Emily caught her as best she could, still frail, still shaking. They stood like that for a long time, sunlight breaking over both of them. I stayed on the porch, watching, letting the scene wash over me. The air smelled of cut grass and hospital detergent, like two lives stitched together at the seam. When Emily looked back at me, she mouthed, "Come here, Dad." I did. Inside, the house was exactly as we'd left it, unpaid bills on the counter, a toy car under the couch, half a bottle of cough syrup beside the sink. Normal life waiting to be resumed. Beth tugged my sleeve. "Grandpa, when can we see Daddy?" The question hung in the air. Emily froze. I crouched beside Beth. "Daddy's away for a while," I said. "He has to think about things he did." "Like time out?" "Yeah," I said softly. "Like time out. But longer." She seemed to accept it, went back to arranging her dolls. Emily looked at me, a silent thank you and a silent wound in one. That night, after Beth fell asleep, we sat in the kitchen with the lights low. Emily sipped tea. Her hands still shook a little. "He called," she said. "When?" "This afternoon. From county." I waited. "He said he's sorry. That he never wanted it to end like this. That he thought he loved her, but it was just escape." She swallowed hard. "He asked if I'd let Beth visit one day." I said nothing. The refrigerator hummed like background conscience. "What did you say?" I said I'd think about it. She looked up at me. "Should I?" "That's not for me to say," I said. "You know what's right for her better than anyone." She smiled sadly. "You always say that when you mean no." I smiled back. "Then at least I'm consistent." 2 weeks later, I visited Cole. He was in county lockup, the kind of place that smells of disinfectant and hopelessness. The guard recognized me, fathers-in-law must be a common species there. Cole came out in gray scrubs, thinner, eyes hollow. He sat opposite me at a table scratched with years of names. "Emily's home," I said. "I know. I heard. She's walking again. Slow, but steady." "That's good." He rubbed his wrists, the skin chafed from cuffs. "Tell her I'm glad." "You could tell her yourself." "She won't pick up." "Then right," I said. He looked at me, searching for something like forgiveness. "Would you read it if I did?" "Yes. But I won't change a word before giving it to her." He nodded. "Fair." For a while we sat in silence, just two men separated by glass and mistakes. Finally he said, "I keep seeing it. The light, the scream. It doesn't stop." "That's the point," I said quietly. "That's what stays when you take someone's choice away." He pressed his palms against his eyes. "Do you believe I loved her?" "I believe you loved what she gave you, distraction, maybe mercy. But love?" I shook my head. "Love doesn't look for exits." When I left, the guard said, "He's calmer when you come." "I'm not here to calm him," I said. "I'm here to make sure he remembers." The month ended the way storms do, not with thunder, but with quiet. Emily and Beth settled into routines. Mornings of cereal and cartoons, afternoons of therapy, evenings of slow healing. Some nights Emily cried softly when she thought Beth was asleep. I heard, but I didn't intrude. Some pain needs no witness. One Sunday, we drove to the lake. Beth fed ducks with a loaf of bread too big for her hands. The wind off the water smelled like spring trying to begin. Emily sat beside me on a bench. "Do you think he'll change?" she asked. "Maybe," I said. Some men find God in a cell. Others just find silence. She nodded. I used to dream about fixing him. Now I just dream about quiet mornings like this. That's a better dream, I said. Beth ran back, cheeks red, crumbs on her jacket. Grandpa, the ducks like me. They'd be crazy not to, I said. She laughed, that same open laugh her mother used to have before all this began. For a moment I could almost believe the month had been just a bad winter we'd outlasted. That night, after they slept, I sat alone on the porch. The crickets were loud, the street still. I took out the recorder from my coat pocket, the same one I'd used in Lindsay's kitchen, and played it one last time. Her voice filled the quiet, calm, trembling, human. The truth, unedited. When it ended, I deleted the file. Some truths don't need to live forever, they've done their job. I looked up at the sky, no stars, just a low ceiling of cloud, and thought of everything this month had taken and everything it had spared. Justice, I learned, isn't the same as revenge. Justice settles, revenge keeps the wound open just to prove it bleeds. I'd come close to both, and I couldn't say which one left me colder. But as I sat there, I realized something else, I didn't feel hatred anymore. Only a kind of tired understanding. The kind you earn by outliving a mistake. When Beth patted out half asleep, dragging her blanket, she climbed into my lap without a word. Grandpa, are the ducks still there at night? Maybe, I said. They stay quiet so the water can rest. She nodded, already drifting off. I looked at her small face, the future still clean, and whispered, let it stay that way. The porch light flickered once, the sound of the house breathing around us. Tomorrow would bring bills, lawyers, therapy, life. But tonight there was peace. And if you're asking what I learned, here it is. You can forgive without reconciling. You can let go without excusing. And sometimes the hardest justice is simply to keep living after truth arrives. So take it from an old man who's seen too many endings. If you ever find yourself standing between love and pride, choose neither. Choose peace. Because peace is the only thing that doesn't need to apologize in the morning. And if you want more truth without polish, you know where to find me.